everyone.
Welcome to stream. My name is Nick.
My name is Jeremy.
And we're streaming live from the California Bay Area in our stream studio. And if you're new to stream, to give more information, Jeremy and we are mentors with Area Youth Ministry.
Right.
And Stream is a weekly program for both Christians and non-Christians where we get to answer your guys' questions and also hear relevant content from the Bible and fellow high school students. We're so glad you guys could join us.
All right, if today is your first time joining us, we got some stream hosts in the chat ready to welcome you. So please put a first in the chat if today's your first time stream host. Stream host, make sure to give them a shout out, All right, you're all doing that right now. All right, so you know what, tonight we're actually gonna be starting a brand new series titled The Prodigal.
The Prodigal.
That's right. So this is actually The
Says
Prodigal.
it right there,
Says it right there. It's gonna be based off the story in the Bible about the prodigal son. But today's part 1, and it's going to be about restlessness.
Oh, wow, there it is. So the term prodigal, it comes from a well-known story that Jesus told about 2 sons, and the younger son was someone who was pretty restless.
You know, and I think that's something that's really easy to be feeling right now. You know, I think just ever since shelter in place. I mean, dude, Nick, how long has shelter in place even been going?
Man, it's been going on for 6 months.
That's half a year, man.
That's half a year. It's half a year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and you know, there's actually a term called cabin fever, and that describes a state of being annoyed and irritable, especially when you're stuck in a single location for a long period of time. So some of you guys might be feeling that, but you know what? Here at Stream, we do our research. And after reading some guides online, we came up with 3 tips for y'all on how to beat cabin fever.
All right, so Nick, you know, he went a little above and beyond. He found these tips, and he actually did all 3 of them this past week, so that we can give you a live report. Here we got.
Okay, tip number 1: cooking. You got me chopping some mushrooms. Now I got. Okay, I'm just pouring in the bell peppers. Look at that. Look at that technique.
Shelter in place. Great time to try some new recipes.
All
Nick,
right.
Making some healthy lunches.
Some bell pepper. Tip number 2: do-it-yourself projects. So I did a home project. This is my garage. So here we have a drywall. There was a huge hole, but I put in this new thing, patched it up with some spackle. It looks okay, you know, overall. Okay, tip number 3: exercise. Here's me doing the jump roping.
All right.
And yeah, you know, you can see my technique is I'm getting better each day. So you just gotta be faithful to the grind, and you're gonna do well. All right.
Even 5 minutes a day, right, Nick?
Even 5 minutes a day, that's sufficient.
All right. So if there's something that you've been trying out, something brand new since Shelter in Place started, why don't you put it in the chat? If you got suggestions for other things for Nick to research and try out, put it in the chat. Maybe we'll see that happen this coming week.
Yeah, and you know what? Another great way to fight cabin fever is by doing different activities with your friends together. And we're gonna do that right now with a little game called Boom Blast Stix. And we're gonna have our friend Corrie join us.
All right. Boom Blast Stix. So this is a pretty fun game. What's up, welcome, Corrie? All right, we got some pretty awesome stuff in here. Let's ignore that stuff for there right now. But as you can see, these are actually sticks. They're like little triangles right now. But the way this game works is that each one of us is gonna go around and we put this stick together.
You gotta lock
together
the
like
sticks.
that. You lock it up, and then we are going to place it on top.
Stack your sticks.
And then if you stack it in the incorrect way or a little not too carefully, then
oh my
it
gosh.
explodes like that. So we're gonna go around, and there you go. Each of us.
Put in the chat who you think is gonna win.
All right, so if you put Jeremy. All right, here we go, guys. So we're just gonna go around, and this is a game of speed, focus, and focus. All right, here we go. Oh my goodness.
That's a nice one.
Okay, so that was an example of what not to do. Example of what not to do right there. There you go. That's a 1. All right, fine. That's a 1 point for me.
Wait, we're going to negative.
That's 1 point away from
That's
you.
minus 1 for me. Oh my god!
It hit my face.
For those who with Jeremy, sorry. Yeah, he's losing already.
We're doing 3 lives out, I guess.
Okay.
This is a lot easier.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, Nick.
It's not even long.
All right. There you go. All right, we'll just do the next point is oh wow, this is about to come off.
I'm sorry.
Jerry's not doing so well.
You got this, Nick. You got this. All right, so here we go.
Wait,
are we adding chopsticks?
What's a board game? All right, so you know what? You know, this is getting a little too easy for some of us. Not me, but we're gonna try putting them on with chopsticks now.
Oh,
in the chat, why don't you put down a board game that you like to play with your friends? Maybe we'll try it out next week for stream. All right, this is for all the marbles. Next one that messes up is out.
2.
So, oh my god, okay, all right. That was me. All right, so thanks for joining us today, Corrie.
Jeremy,
that was Boom Blast Stix. I'm gonna go home and practice my chopsticks.
There was
skills,
no
I
winner.
guess.
It was just Jeremy lost.
Wow. All right. I know what I'm doing this week is practicing that game, I guess. Man, but thank you, Corey. That was a lot of fun. I encourage you all to maybe play a game with your family at home and just find some ways to bond during this time while you're with them.
Yeah, definitely. And we had a blast just doing that. And for tonight's content, as fun as board games, and even like the top 3 tips that we just showcased earlier, as fun as those things are, we know that those things help, but they might not be the exact solution that fixes everything, especially for restlessness.
Yeah, I think even before COVID and shelter in place happened, I think maybe it was pretty easy to feel restless about other things in life, and just maybe ask this question of like, man, why can't I just live my own life and do all the things that I think will make me happy? So this is an interesting question. I think it's a question that I think a lot of people ask and just feel like in life. So, all right, you guys know what time it is. We want to invite some of our friends to help us answer this question. So we'd like to invite Roy and Jordan for this week's session of Questions Corner Live.
All right, thank you, Nick and Jeremy. So as you guys can see, I'm sharing my corner with somebody here today with my friend Jordan.
Thanks, Roy. Hi, everybody. I'm Jordan. I helped out with a couple of stream episodes in the past, and shout out to the old Upstream stream team. But as Nick and Jeremy said, we're exploring that question of why can't I live my own life? Wow. And so we wanted to take a look at a story that Jesus told that actually really captures that feeling of restlessness really well.
Yeah, so let's read the story together. So I'll be the narrator and the dad in the story since I'm a dad, and you could be the younger son, okay? So let's start Luke chapter 15 and verse 11, okay? So, and he said, and Jesus said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father,
Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me.
And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went out and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said,
How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.
And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him,
Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.
But the father said to his servants, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate.
Man, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But hey, that's kind of weird, right? That you would ask for your inheritance early. Like, can you do that?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't get this, but when the son asked for his inheritance early, he was basically saying, like, Dad, that sum of money I was supposed to get when you're dead.
Okay.
The problem is you're taking too long to die, okay?
Oh.
And I'm getting too tired waiting for you to die. So can we just pretend like you're dead and just give me the money now? Like, that's pretty wrong. That's pretty wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up. Like, if I asked my dad that probably would not be here right now.
Yeah, we kind of know in the story that the dad's not a Chinese dad, because if he was, the story would have just ended right there. Like, there's no more story left there, but.
Yeah, it's twisted, but there's a lot more here to talk about, because he takes off with that load of cash, and life just doesn't pan out the way that he forecasted, and he ends up blowing it all.
Yeah.
And that's actually what the word prodigal means. It means just wasteful. He blows it all. But we actually asked some friends and some youth mentors to share some stories about how they experienced that kind of story firsthand in their own lives, and how they chose to go and live their own lives. So we wanted to hear what they have to say, and we're going to hear from Janet first.
All right.
Hi, my name is Janet, and this is my story. I've been extremely ambitious since high school, and going into my freshman year at Berkeley, I quickly found that even though college was so different from high school, in some sense it felt like the same thing, just in a new arena. That first semester, I got a 4.0, landed myself a prestigious investment banking internship, got chosen for a leadership position at a business club on campus, had a boyfriend while working part-time to support myself. Even though I could check off in my head my mental checklist of what I wanted out of college, I felt empty and lonely, often wondering why I was doing all of this. There would be nights where I would just walk around my dorm thinking if my life would just be a series of one test to the next or one accomplishment to the next, never feeling quite happy or satisfied. The far country I ventured into was wanting to experience all that college had to offer with no regard for what God had to say about my life. I got into a romantic relationship, poured out my time and energy into academics and extracurriculars, a startup competition, and tried out parties, concerts, and traveling. I jumped from one club to another, from community service to business club, student government, to even rushing a sorority, looking for somewhere that I would find both belonging and fulfillment. Instead of finding fulfillment, or just a place where I could feel a sense of home, I was completely exhausted, just tired of wearing masks to keep up my image. I was filled with a lot of shame and regret, not just from bad decisions I made, but also because of the trail of victims that I left behind. Friends that I had hated in my heart for being better than me, guys I manipulated to feel loved, and people I completely disregarded when they were of no use to me. It was in that pigsty of restlessly trying to secure for myself while feeling empty and ashamed inside that I turned back to God. I had some older mentors from church who faithfully showed me a lot of love and care despite how closed off I was to God at the time. Their support gave me courage to go back to church and study the Bible for myself for the first time. Through the love of the community and really seeing the Bible accurately reflect my heart, I was able to come back to God. Thank you.
All right, Janet, thank you so much for sharing that and all the things you did in college. Man, I spent 5 years in college, and all I did was get one degree. So yeah, wow, I'm feeling kind of insecure. I mean, what'd you do with your time in college?
Well, I think I spent more time in the volleyball court in the dining hall than I did in class, at least when I was awake. But I thought it was interesting how even though Janet accomplished so much, like she was so successful, she still felt empty at the end of that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of how, like, I felt that way. Like, you know, she didn't actually find what she was looking for in life. And I felt that way when I graduated law school and got out into the career world, too.
Why do you say that?
Yeah, so my first job out of law school, I was a lawyer, and I landed a job at this big international firm.
Okay.
They flew me out to this 2-week trial in Washington, D.C. I stayed at, like, by myself in a queen bedroom suite in a 5-star hotel 1 block away from 1600 Pennsylvania. So, like, me and Barack Obama were neighbors, right? Every meal we had was catered from this fancy restaurant, but the whole experience was miserable because we slept like 4 or 5 hours a night. And then nobody ate the food. So the food all got thrown away because none of the lawyers had any time to eat. And so the only thing like positive I remember about that was on the flight over there, I got to fly economy plus. So it's not economy, it's economy plus where they give you like 4 extra inches of leg room. And I think I got like an extra snack. So, but that was it. That was it, yeah.
4 inches, 4 hours, give and take. But that's funny, right? Because a lot of people would look at that kind of lifestyle, all those perks, like being flown out, and they would say that you've made it, right? Yeah. You've made it. But in a way, it's false advertising. It's not what it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, you know, like business trips, getting staffed on this big case, like it's all so overrated. People don't understand that. But for the next story, let's hear from our friend Josh, not from the working world, but about his experiences in high school.
Hi, my name is Josh, and I just graduated high school. I grew up going to church all my life. So I went to church every Sunday and every Friday. But during 8th grade, I thought that Christianity was holding something back from me. And I felt that Christianity was just robbing me of my high school experience, you know, going to games, going to parties, going on dates and stuff like that. So after a little bit of thinking, I decided my sophomore year that I would walk away from Christianity. And I basically lived the way I wanted to for a good year and a half. And to be honest, that life that I was living was pretty good. Hanging out with friends was a lot of fun. Going on dates was also pretty nice. But that wasn't just it. It didn't just end there. I ended up doing a lot of things that I didn't think I would do, and I had to pay the consequences for that. I had to lie to my parents about what I was doing, and our relationship grew pretty distant because of that. Also, not going to church meant I didn't see my church friends that much. And we also grew pretty distant. But but also I ended up crossing a lot of boundaries that I never thought I would have. And paying the consequences for that, it was pretty tough. And crossing those boundaries, left me filled with a lot of shame, regret, and guilt. And I learned that I was definitely not the strong-willed person I thought I once was. But that all changed when I went to Cambodia for a church mission trip. We did a lot of work putting on worship services and sharing the gospel with the Cambodian students. And that's where it really hit me. All the messages that I heard about in the past about God forgiving me, despite my sins and stuff like that. I was living a completely different life than I was back in the States. I was working my butt off every day. Just being constantly uncomfortable and constantly tired. But at the end of each day, I was happier and I was more fulfilled, more satisfied with the way I was living than how I was living back in the States. And just comparing those two lives that I was living, the life I was living in Cambodia and the life I was living in the States, I decided that I would much rather be living how I was living like in Cambodia than back at home, just living for myself and whatever I wanted to do. So that's when I decided to come back to God and become Christian again.
Man, thanks, Josh. Josh is actually on his way right now down to UCSD to start his first semester there. We're going to miss you if you're watching. Hope you are. But one thing I really appreciate about Josh's story is how upfront he was.
Yeah.
He was just straight up about how he was feeling, what he wanted to do, and he actually voiced that.
Yeah, and you can actually see that in the story we read in The Younger Son. He did something similar, and I think it's good. It's a good reminder that when you have this angst and this restlessness inside, it really helps just to be honest and voice what you're feeling, because you might be really surprised by the response you get from the adults or the authority figures in your life.
Yeah, because I could imagine the younger son just keeping it to himself right below the surface and letting that simmer, and then all the while he'd just be getting more and more resentful towards his dad and thinking he couldn't leave. But when he actually brings it up, it's painful.
Yeah.
It's painful, but he actually is surprised to find that his dad gives him that choice.
Yeah.
That choice to go if he wants.
And the younger son, what he discovered with that choice, with that freedom, is kind of what Josh discovered, right? That, going out and living it up, it's fun at first, but then the fun sort of runs out after a while, because you can only watch so many movies and hang out and go to so many parties before you go back to asking yourself, man, what's the meaning of my life? Is this it, just to satisfy my desires and kind of pig out, So it turns out living for our own desires is really uninspiring life. It just doesn't motivate you. And thankfully, Josh here, he got to realize that when he had a chance to go back and live the way that God designed us to live, in a relationship of loving and serving others. So now my friend Leo actually has something to share with us on that point, and he's in person here tonight. So let's welcome him. Come on up, Leo. Welcome to Questions Corner.
Hi, hello.
Getting a little crowded here.
Hey, Leo.
Hi.
So Leo and I actually spent the last year running around with the same small group of sophomore guys, had a lot of fun. He would always bring the best Mexican food, Salvadorian food, depends how he was feeling. Total food coma either way. But Leo, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you experienced that feeling of restlessness and how you tried to address it.
Yeah, so I think beginning as far back as middle school, I felt this sense of restlessness as I asked myself this question, why am I here? And I couldn't help but to feel like life was sort of meaningless and everything I did was pointless if I didn't have an answer to this one question. And for a long time, I believed that the answer to this question was to just live it up, enjoy life, do whatever you want to do, pursue whatever you want to pursue.
Wow. So what did that look like for you? How did that work out?
So I started pursuing a lot of other things. I think it started with girlfriends. I thought, man, if I had a girlfriend, then I'm going to have some meaning and purpose in my life. But it became this terrible pattern of going from girl to girl until, I almost felt numb to the relationships. And then I started partying, I started drinking and taking different kinds of substances, sometimes all in one night. And it got pretty bad to the point where I had to start selling drugs in order to finance some of my addictions. And I remember this one time, me and my friends, we had just been drinking, and I found myself on the floor of this public restroom, puking my guts out. And I asked myself, is this it? Is this all I have to live for?
Dang, that sounds pretty rough.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I think something that I learned from that is that when I decide to live life apart from God, it just leads to a lot of regret and shame.
So what changed for you? Like, how did you turn around from that?
By some coincidence, some miracle, there was a friend from high school who went to the same college, and she introduced me to a college group, a Christian group on campus. And I actually met some thoughtful Christians who had some logic and evidence behind their beliefs. And they had a much more elevated answer to this question, why am I here? And that's where I learned that I was designed with a purpose. That my value was to be in a relationship with God.
Wow, I'm so thankful to hear that. And what really kind of struck me is how, even in the midst of sort of like when you're in the pit, when you're on the floor of that public restroom, you still came back to that existential question about meaning and purpose. Like what am I doing here? Is this all there is? And it's really amazing that you had that moment and you realize, wow, we all want something more with this life, right?
Yeah, I think that points us to a realization, right? That we're not really designed to live however way we want. We're just not wired that way. Yeah. And at the end of everything, we're looking for that kind of acceptance and that purpose and that forgiveness that can only be found when we're forgiven and we have that relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really thankful because it seems like all of our stories tonight sort of have this happy ending, back in the Father's house. Because it turns out all the things we're looking for, that we go out looking for, like meaning and significance and acceptance and unconditional love, these are all things that are not like somewhere out there, but it's in a relationship with God. And so I think Jesus told this story to let all of us know, like whether you've left the Father's house and went to the far country and made a mess of your life or not, you're always welcome back home. And even if you've done some shameful things, right? Or maybe you just have this like thought, this angst inside, like, oh, I wish God wasn't there so I could do whatever I want. I think Jesus really wants all of us to know that God isn't like vengeful or judgmental, that he's actually full of forgiveness and he just wants us to come home, And so that the restless younger son in this story who just wants to live his own life, I think that's a picture of all of us, right? And not just because of like right now the situation with shelter in place, but restlessness. I think humanity has always been restless, and maybe particularly when you're like a teenager, And actually, as I was thinking about it, a big part of that restlessness comes from maybe actually a good place, comes from a desire to live life and experience pleasure and excitement. It comes from wanting to grow and mature and do something meaningful and make a difference in the world. And the irony of it all is those are all actually good things that God wants us to have. And these are things that the world out there promises, but never really quite deliver, And the younger son, I think for him, it took a long trip away from home to sort of learn that for himself. But when he comes back, dad throws this big party, everybody's celebrating, everybody's so happy, except one person. Actually, there's one person who's not at the party. It's the older son, it's his older brother. So some people looking at the story says it should be called the story of the two lost sons. And we only read like kind of the first half, right? But they call it the story of the two lost sons because even though the older son, he never leaves home, it turns out he's just as lost in his heart, right, to the father as the younger son. And so next week, that's what we're going to talk about, how this older son who stayed home, how he probably felt like he served his father faithfully all this time, but he never got what he wanted. And we're going to see how that story wraps up next week. So, all right, that's all we got from our corner. So back to you, Nick and Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Jordan and Roy. And thank you for sharing your stories, Janet, Josh, and Leo. I just really appreciate how all of you were just so honest about the different things that you thought would be the answer to your restlessness. And, maybe you, the person who's watching this right now, maybe you might resonate with some of the thoughts. Maybe you have had or you currently have some of those thoughts that they had. The idea that that job or that party, like that's the answer to my restlessness. So I hope that their stories and just their sharings really were helpful for you.
Yeah, I know this is a topic I resonated with, and we hope that it resonated with y'all as well. And yeah, just to wrap things up, if you liked tonight's episode, please make sure to like and subscribe on the button below this box that you're watching, and to stay up to date on all things AYM. And yeah, like they mentioned, next week we'll be continuing our series on the prodigal, and the focus will be on the older son, and the topic will be on resentment.
Now that I personally think that's gonna be really, really interesting. So you don't want to miss it. So right now we're gonna head to our stream teams. If you had any questions from tonight, please ask them there. If you go to the description box right now, there's a link. We got 2 big stream teams, one for SoCal, one for everyone else. I heard that it was really, really awesome last week. So yeah, it's gonna be awesome, and we will see you there.
Yeah, have a great time, everyone, in your stream teams. And from us, the stream team, live to you guys, we're out. Peace.